What up, nerds? Oh my gosh, it has been a hot minute since I have done an update video of what has been going on with my life, and primarily it's been because I've just been so mentally busy. Like, up here has just been, it's been crazy up in my mind. Let me turn on the brightness. It's been so busy up here in this little brain of mine. So, before we get into it, I do like to show my little crystal mobile that I absolutely love. I'm still in love with. It is my favorite thing right now that I have. I also have a little stuffed dolphin, but that's outside. That's in the room. How are you doing? How are you guys? I know it's been a minute, and I know some of you have gone through some massive changes, and I know some of you feel like you haven't done any changing at all. And girl, bruh, famalam, fey person, 1 minute and 1 second, as I say all that, I feel you on a very deep level. I feel you on a deep level. Did you have some water today? If you haven't, go get your ass some water. Go get some water. Quench the thirst. Quench it. And if you haven't, you can pause the video. We can drink this water together. Now, some of you might be watching this video and you don't watch any of my gaming stuff, but the reason I have on this makeup is because I just got done with a video game stream that was 3 hours and 45 minutes long, and it was a lot of fun. I am going to remove my makeup while I'm talking to you guys because bruh. And I brought my little mirror here, so ooh, that's bright. Chill out, bruh. So, oh my gosh. So much has happened. So much has happened, y'all. Okay, so I guess the last thing I remember was that I had said to you all, let's start with the eyes. The last thing I remember is that I had talked to you guys about the fact that I had been streaming for a little bit, and I was really excited about that process, and I was thoroughly enjoying it, but also feeling a little impatient because I was wanting things to pop off more. So like, I only have like 20 something followers on there, and that was like kind of bothering me for a little bit, and I wanted more out of that experience. I felt like I, was not necessarily firing on all pistons, as I like to say. And I was also talking about how I felt kind of behind the curve, because I'm still living at home with my parents, and I have been applying to jobs and still have not been able to find anything that is substantial enough to pay bills. The thing about job hunting is I could probably go find like a job that's making minimum wage. The issue with that is the last job I had where I was making minimum wage, where I was working at a retail store, the money was not enough to cover the gas it was taking me to get to my location. So I was actually not even able to afford to get there. So at least here at the house, that I'm in, at least when I'm not working, I'm not having to drive or be taken. And because of where I live in Florida, public transportation is not within easy access of where I currently live. So, I guess that's kind of the first like little vulnerability moment, is that when it comes to finances right now, girl, I have been saving the last $50 something that I have, and I've been using it to get really off-brand toiletries, because I have eczema and I have to do a bunch of extra stuff in order to make sure that my eczema doesn't, freak out and cause me to look like an alligator out here. But I've been holding on to that, and I actually had to make the executive decision to allow my phone service to go off, because I currently cannot afford the phone service that I have. And the phone service that I have is the cheapest you can get. So it is the cheapest. And because I don't have income coming in, wow, These wipes are good. I am not sponsored in any way, but if you're looking for like makeup remover wipes, I like the Neutrogena kind. A little bit of ASMR there for you. So, when it comes to finances, I actually have had a lot of like opportunities kind of, crop up where I've been able to do things or have things and people have gifted them to me. So I am eternally grateful right now for all of the support that I'm getting during this time, as far as like, my sister and like a couple of really, really close friends of mine have been very, they've been very vocal about being like, hey, I'm also struggling financially, but I want to help you as best I can. And that's been super amazing. But that is my update as far as my finances are going. They definitely going. So your girl is back to not having phone service, which actually isn't the worst thing ever. I enjoy people not being able to reach me so immediately, like whenever they fucking want to. I feel like a lot of people, they forget that the phone is supposed to be convenient for me. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's happening on that point. On the spiritual point, which I knew, when it comes to the spiritual, I know that's what a lot of people who have followed me are here for. It's been very busy. So something I didn't realize that I needed to do was I needed to come to terms with the relationship that I have with each of my family members. And the thing is for many, many years, I wanted a certain type of relationship with every family member of mine. And what Spirit showed me recently was that I need to allow my relationships to be what they are right now, instead of spending all this time trying to, bring people where I am, or instead of trying to make people see the world in the way I see the world, instead of trying to make people do anything, I need to just see them where they're at, respect them for where they're at, and keep it pushing. And that was hard. That was very hard. I had a solid 2 weeks where I cried like every morning because it was just the fucking worst, bro. Like, it really just was the worst that I was going through this, kind of having to mourn the relationship that will not happen. It's the visual I have in my head is one that has such high expectations of everyone around me, and the expectations are very high. I know some people are like, well, you should have expectations when it comes to the people that are around you, but one of the things that Spirit made me aware of is that it's one thing to set boundaries with people, to let people know how you want to be dealt with. 8 minutes and 8 seconds as I'm saying this. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to expect people to grow and elevate just because you want them to. Your journey, the path that you've chosen, the spiritual journey that you've chosen, 8 minutes and 23 seconds as I'm saying this, that is your path. You chose that. Nobody else chose that. If they said that they chose it and now they're doing something else, then they have not decided to dedicate to that path. And there is nothing that you can do to make a person do that. This is why Spirit's been very big on the you can't take everybody with you. As much as we want to, as much as we want the people that we love to come with us, towards enlightenment, towards, being better and feeling better and doing all this stuff, we cannot force them into those spaces. We have to allow people to be who they are and keep it pushing, keep it moving. So that's definitely a message for you. You've got to allow people to be who they're going to be. If you have people in your life who lie, they're constantly cheating on you, or they're cheating you out of things, if you have family members who are narcissists, or they are narcissistic in the way that they deal with you, it is important for you to take a step back and realize that you have to pretend those people are going to be who they're going to be for the rest of their lives. I heard a therapist say this once, and it absolutely changed how I viewed all of my relationships. And she essentially said to this girl, I saw, it was like a post that I saw, but I know a therapist, and she also says this. And she said, when you're dealing with like family members or partners, and you're dealing with somebody who traumatized you, or you're dealing with somebody who did like negative shit to you, you have to pretend that that person is never going to change. You have to pretend that that person feels justified in what they did to you, and that they have no interest in being different. And the reason it's important for you to go through your healing journey with this in mind is because what it does is it removes all the expectations you have of that person doing anything different. It puts all of the focus on you setting your boundaries. It's not that you're doing all the work per se, because I know some people are like, and I have felt this, where it's like, well, that's not fair. I'm doing all the work and they're not doing anything. Well, they're not doing anything, but it's not necessarily all the work. What you're doing is you're preserving your peace, you're preserving your spirit, you're preserving your space by setting appropriate boundaries with those people. 11 minutes and 11 seconds as I'm saying this. By setting those boundaries and reinforcing them consistently. Yes, that is work, but you would still have to set boundaries and reinforce them even with people who wanted to change. Boundaries are not something that comes up just because people are toxic. Boundaries are important for us to live our everyday life with. Even in a society where people want to be there for each other and want to help each other, we're not all the same. And so because we're not all the same, boundaries are necessary and they're important. It's a part of the I-me experience. It's a part of having a body. When I say the I-me experience, that's what I mean. Not that it is selfish, but what I'm talking about is living a human experience where you are in a body that it's just you in there. You're not a part of the collective. Make sure I got all the makeup. Because I've gone to bed with makeup on before, and when I wake up, my skin is dry, it's parched, it's literally like water. It's like how SpongeBob was in that episode where he went to Sandy's dome and he was in there trying to pretend like he didn't need water. Dry as hell. But that is something that I've been working on. Allowing the relationships in my life to be what they are, and then also to figure out how I wanted to show up as an adult in the world. For those of you who are still living with your parents, or you come from ethnic households, or even if you don't come from an ethnic household, if you are a person who your parents kind of see you as their baby still and you're an adult, something that you are going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out how you want to engage with them from the adult space. So there are a lot of things that I was doing that kind of supported the moments of disrespect that my parents would do to me. And the only reason they ever did it was because they weren't told not to, because they still see me as their baby. So instead of asking or requesting that I do things, there used to be a lot of times where I would just be told to do things. Well, you need to do this. And I'm walking around like, I'm 30 years old. The only reason you're able to tell me this is because I'm currently living in your household. But if I was living in my own household with my own children, I would be damned if you're going to tell me what I need to do in front of my children. You know what I'm saying? And some people think that that's okay, and that's like culturally their thing. I have nothing against that. But for me personally, I was speaking with spirit, doing self-therapy, and came to the realization that I want to show up differently to my parents. I'm no longer a child. So because I'm not a child, there are things I can do for them that I couldn't do before from the child space. And there are things that I should be doing that I haven't been doing, and it's been negatively affecting the relationship. Calling both of my parents out on things that they do that hurt me is so necessary. And that is necessary for everybody. When you have parents who harm you, or who are hurting you, or who hurt your emotions, it's important that you're honest with them and you tell them. Now, some of you are not in safe spaces to do that. Take this message with a grain of salt. Some of y'all, this is not for you. But when you're in a space where you can feel like, yeah, it's going to hurt their feelings, but ultimately it's going to be okay, you should say something. You really should. Honesty is not always the best policy, I have learned, but honesty a lot of the time is a good policy to have. It sets a certain precedent for how you decide to deal with other people. So I had a couple of situations where I was very honest with my parents recently, and I was terrified because I was like, this is a level of honesty I've never been, as far as discussing things that happened to me that I hated or that I didn't like or that I was mad at. And it went well. I didn't think it was going to go well. I prepared for the worst, but it went well. But after those conversations, I realized I cannot be a child with them anymore. And this was something that Spirit kind of brought me to, that it's like, you've got to be an adult now. Like, you're wanting all of these adult things. You're wanting a soulmate. You're wanting to eventually maybe have children. You're wanting to live in your own home. You're wanting to support yourself. You're wanting to do all these things, and yet you have been leaning on your parents like a child. And so we have to break you out of that. And so that's one of the things Spirit has been working with me on this whole time. And it has been a doozy of a pickle. It's been a whole... oof. It's been so difficult. But it's been necessary. I feel a change. I feel a difference in how I interact with them and how I interact with people in general. I think I shared it with you guys in a video already, but something that I wanted to share with you is self-therapy is real therapy. It does work. It does not work for everybody because not everybody can do it. But essentially what I do is I will go online and I will find therapist questions that therapists will ask people who are dealing with certain things, and I will work through those questions. Now the thing is even if you don't stumble on the correct thing that you're dealing with, it's important to ask yourself deep questions to get to know yourself. And this was another thing since my last video that I did that I've been working on. I realized I was not emotionally mature. I wasn't emotionally intelligent. I thought I was for so long, but I realized 90% of the time I didn't know what I felt. I couldn't describe the emotions that I was struggling with. If you talk about the fact that my hair is at a weird length, you're anti-black. I'm kidding. Or am I? I realized I couldn't identify feelings that I had when I had them. So I would have bad days and I'd be like, I don't know why I'm having a bad day. I'm just having a bad day. And then I realized after doing some soul searching and again talking with Spirit that I couldn't properly identify my emotions. And because I couldn't identify them, I couldn't figure out what I needed to do to feel better in that moment. So I would be frustrated, but I didn't know I was frustrated. I'd be like, well, I'm angry. And it's like, okay, that's a base level of understanding of self. But why are you angry? Are you angry because you were disrespected and your justice mind came in and now you're supposed to be standing tall and, reinforcing boundaries? Are you angry because you're frustrated? 18 minutes and 18 seconds, as I say that? So there's something that is causing you to feel as though you are incapable. There's the emotions, anger, happiness, sadness, all of that, those are umbrella terms. And underneath that are all of the other emotions that we experience. And every emotion that we experience, we don't usually just experience it by itself. There's usually an accompanying emotion which creates a more complex mix. And again, over the past couple of weeks, I started noticing that. So what I actually did was, I downloaded an app. And you can find one if you go to if you go to your app store on your phone or wherever. And I found a emotional tracker app. And essentially what I did was, at the end of the day, I would, before bed, after I finished speaking to my spiritual team and meditating and all that good stuff, I would do a journal entry in the app, and essentially I would try to recall the emotions I experienced that day and what was happening when I experienced those emotions. The first 3 or 4 days, it was incredibly difficult because I was like, I don't even know why I was upset, or I didn't even know why I was bored, or I didn't even know why I felt gray. But then the more I did it, the more I started to be able to identify emotions. I also went on, Pinterest is my best friend. Pinterest is my best friend. I find some of the most amazing things on there. It's not a lot of distracting content like you get on like Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. Like, you don't have a lot of videos. I mean, maybe some of you do, but I don't get a lot of videos on Pinterest. It's mostly pictures, and that works for me. It slows my brain down. And so I found pictures that had the different emotions, and it was 3 different photos that had a bunch, 5 and 6 and 7 columns of emotions. And I was like, whoa, these are a lot of emotions that I didn't realize a person could experience. And so when I would try to figure out what I was feeling, I would literally go through that list. And if I saw a word that kind of seemed like it would fit, I would look up the definition. And then if it fit, I was like, I can use this word. So, one of the new words that I realized was, a lot of the time I feel calm, or I feel like it starts with an O. Shit, I can't remember. But there are a couple of words, and I was like, whoa, like, I've never connected those words to my experience, those emotions to my experience. And then when I did, I just felt like I knew myself just a little better. Just a little better. And so that is something else that's been happening in my space. And when I tell you guys, if you struggle with any type of like emotional or mental or spiritual stuff, research is your best friend. Go and look. Go to Google. Look up articles, you know? And if you're a person who hates reading, I get it. Go to YouTube and find a channel that talks about emotions, that talks about neurodivergence, that talks about relationships. There's so many people out here who are actual professionals, who are certified, who are talking truth. And I know a lot of people will say, well, the internet's full of stuff that's not true. Well, so are people. Even if we didn't have the internet and we were in communities, we would still have people spouting lies. So it doesn't make sense to not go looking for the information because some people lie. You will find what is true. It will resonate on a deeper level. And for some of you, at first, you might be like, well, yeah, this is clearly the answer. But the more you dig, the more you will find that just because you agree with it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Sometimes it's stuff that you don't agree with, and you're like, that's not me. Like, I don't have a short temper. Are you sure? What does a short temper look like? When's the last time you've been angry? I think in those instances, you really do have to be honest with yourself about where you're at, and where you're going, and what you're doing. So, there was also that. So, I talked about finances. I let you all into what was going on in a familial situation. I haven't even been talking to my best friend every day like I was before. 23 minutes as I say that. Because I've just been so exhausted mentally. As far as the streaming thing, I came upon a realization tonight, and by I came upon, I mean my sister came upon it. And for those of you that don't know, very quickly, live streaming is essentially when you hop on a camera, you go live so other people can come into your chat or your comment section and they can talk to you in real time. That's what, streaming essentially is. And I was streaming a video game, and I got done, and I turned the camera off, and my sister looks at me and goes, it's crazy to watch you go from who you are every day. When the camera turns on, you get into your camera persona. And then when the camera goes off, you go back to being yourself. And she was like, it's crazy because you're very overly articulate when you're on camera. And I just sat there and I listened because she's right. And we talked about it. And a lot of it is because I've spent a lot of my life in front of a camera. When I was little is kind of when my parents had the home video cameras. Y'all remember the big ass, the you are not the father, and then the cameraman will be hitting one of these as he's going down the hallway. And my dad used to have one of those. And ever since I was little, I was in front of a camera, especially because my family, they sang, they played instruments, they performed. Some of them wanted to act, some of them did act. And I spent a lot of my time growing up being placed in positions where I had to create an alternate persona. so that I could get by, and I wanted to be easily digestible, by everybody. And those of you that do entertainment, or even those of you who work regular 9 to 5 jobs, or you're trying to get out there and find friends, some of you have these personas that you've created, and you're not even aware really that you've created them, where it's not really you, it's like a shell that you've created that kind of adjusts to whoever you're talking to. And my sister was like, I'm gonna help you break out of that, because she was like, your personality, like your baseline personality of how you are, is really great to be around, and it's really fun, and you are the happiest when you're in that space. You're not happy when you are in that other persona space. That's why you get tired, and when you turn the camera off, you're like, oh, thank heavens I'm turning it off. She was like, if you were just yourself, you wouldn't have a problem with it. And I was like, that's probably true. It's probably true. So I realized, I'm dealing with having like a low amount of followers on there, and things aren't really picking up. Now, I do have somebody who's making a logo for my gaming brand, and I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited, and things are moving in that direction, but I always felt like there was kind of a spiritual hand in front of what was happening, and I was like, what's going on? What am I not doing? I'm meditating every morning, I'm journaling every night, I'm saying the affirmations, I'm high-fiving myself in the mirror when I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to be positive, I'm sitting outside, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like I'm really trying, like what more is there? And then tonight, to realize I still have not broken through this kind of TV ready personality. And it was crazy to realize that, and to realize this is part of the reason I haven't moved forward, and I haven't moved out of where I am yet. And it doesn't feel like a punishment. Me still being in my parents' house, me not having the finances that I want, me not being anywhere in the dating space right now, like it did feel like a punishment before. 100% it felt like a punishment. Fucking hated it. But now it doesn't feel like a punishment. Now it feels almost like a, what do you call it? It's like I've been given mercy, if you will, or grace. I don't really know. It's like I've been given the opportunity to find my footing before I'm being thrown into all of the shit that is coming for me. And if you guys are spiritual, spiritual fae people, girlies, my spiritual boys, my spiritual ladies, my spiritual fae people, my spiritual people, you've probably seen TikToks, Instagram videos of tarot card, people reading tarot cards and saying, oh, your soulmate's coming in, they're coming fast, your ex wants you, all of this shit. And some of it may be resonating with you, and some of it might not be. Some of it might feel very scammy. But the truth of the matter is things are coming for you. They are. By nature of how the world works. Think about it this way. If you haven't been believing or seeing, you've been seeing TikTok videos or other videos, and you have been, bro, look at that. That's crazy. I look wild. We are looking wild out here. If you've been seeing those videos and you've been irritated and you're like, yeah, y'all have been saying this to me for years and I haven't felt the change. There has been change in your life. There has been change, because that's how life works. So whether it be that you've aged, whether it be that you learned something new, whether it be that you regressed into old toxic habits, you have been changing. You've probably not seen the type of changes that you're wanting, i.e. money, i.e. new house, i.e. soulmate, i.e. I don't even know if I'm using that right, children, pets, all that good stuff, the luxury. But I think this is one of the struggles that we as human beings have, where it's like we get into these headspaces where we want what we want, and then we don't see when good things that are slowly helping us get to what we want show up, because we don't see how that fits into the overall scheme. 29 minutes and 29 seconds as I say that. Ooh. We don't see how it's going to fit in. So we don't think that, oh, I was complimented today when I went out matters. We don't think that, oh, I got a free sample at Costco today. We don't think that that's a big deal. We don't think that blocking that one toxic person in our life is a big deal. It is. It's a very big deal. A lot of our spiritual growth is quiet, meaning other people on the outside aren't going to really see it, and they're not going to really care, and they're not going to really support you in it. But it's happening, and it's there, and it's important. And I roll my eyes because I'm talking to myself as well. So, if you are, if 7 or 8 months ago, you were in a space and you're still in that physical space, because I've been here for a while now, at least since October of last year, I have been in this closet doing videos and stuff. And if you have been in the same place from October of last year, or maybe even earlier on, I'm here to tell you that there is no mistake. There is a reason why you're at where you're at. A lot of times I have felt I was supposed to be somewhere else. For a long time I felt like my spirit didn't belong here on earth, that I was like a starseed. I felt like I was a spirit that belonged on a different planet. I felt like because people didn't understand me, and people didn't understand my jokes, and people didn't care the way that I cared, or they didn't think the way that I thought, I always felt like I was supposed to be somewhere else. And then here, I felt for a long time, I'm not supposed to be at my parents' house. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I'm supposed to be successful. There is no supposed to be. If you're where you're at right now, it's because this time of your life, you are there for a reason. Whether you put yourself there, or whether you were attracted there because something or someone or some entity needed your presence. Or maybe there was something you're supposed to learn, or something you're supposed to take in. In some cases, we're where we're at simply because we made decisions. It's not always, kind of as my best friend calls it, the spiritual woo-woo shit. Sometimes it's that you made a decision, but usually in the decisions that we make, there is a reason for why we're where we're at. So I'm here for so many good reasons. So many good reasons. And I have just been extremely humbled by everything that I've been learning, that I've been reading, the self-therapy. I went through a situation where I wrote both of my parents' letters, long letters. Both of them were 9 pages long per parent. And I talked my shit in these letters. I went off. You couldn't, bro. It took me a week to write both letters because I had so much to say. I was so angry. I was so frustrated. I was like, y'all are gonna find out everything that I feel about this situation. And I finished writing the letters, and Spirit said, okay, now let's go back and edit these. Let's go back and redo them. And I took all of the blame language out. And it went from 9 pages per parent to 6 pages. Blame language meaning you did this to me. So I took that out. And then Spirit moved me to go through each letter, categorize the points. I did that. And then Spirit said, what boundaries can you set from the realizations of what happened to you? And I wrote boundaries. And at first I thought the letters I was writing were intervention letters. I thought I was writing them to read them and to be like, yeah, y'all finna learn today. Like, you finna learn the fuck shit that you did. Like, I really thought that was gonna be me. I really thought. I was so excited. I was so ready to read it out. But then I was also terrified because I was like, they might try to fight me. But what ended up happening was I created bullet point lists of boundaries. And Spirit said these were never intervention letters. For other things maybe you would need to write an intervention letter. But for what you're trying to do right now in the present, this was not an intervention. This was you getting out how you felt, how you were hurt. Once you got that out, it was time for you to decide, do I want them to apologize? Do I need it? Spirit and I worked with that. We worked on a lot of stuff over those 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. Spirit told me for the next 2 weeks, you finna work on some hard shit. And I did. And it was not easy. It was a struggle. I was tired every day. And I wasn't sleeping well because I'm one of those people that I don't sleep well when there's any like challenge or struggle that has not been solved. So if I know that I have to talk to a person about something rough, I don't sleep well the night before. It's just how I'm built. And a lot of that has been because of anxiety. But I got done with those boundaries and I just started enacting them. There was no need for me to sit down and do a whole, all right, so boundary number 1, what you not gonna do no more, god damn it, is like, I thought that was what was gonna happen, but it wasn't. I just started enacting boundaries. So I would make a statement. If the statement was challenged, I would ask a clarifying question just to make sure I heard you correctly. And then I would state whatever that boundary was. You know, so for example, I don't like, that's not really a good example. Boundaries. Any boundary. I just started very gently and kindly but firmly reinforcing them. And so far it's been good. And Spirit also let me know some other things about what was going on in the DNA of my ancestry. Y'all, I know some of you all do not want to check your ancestry. I know some of you have no interest in it. And the people that I'm talking to, I don't know how you would find me and be interested in what I'm doing, honestly. I mean, I don't know. But some of you are of European descent. And you have no interest in going back because you're pretty sure that you had some racist-ass family members up the line. But the thing about doing ancestral work is that what you do is you challenge the old beliefs. You look at them for what they were. Yes, it was fucked up that this thing happened. I understand it was fucked up that this thing happened. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do something different so that we don't repeat that shit ever again. That's kind of the point. That's the point for me, personally, of doing ancestral work, is challenging old unhealthy beliefs, changing the way that it goes, and doing so in a more consistent way. And it's interesting because I have a friend, and she was like, yeah, man, like, some family members in the ancestral line, some of them are toxic on one side, and then on the other side, they were martyrs, they were saints, you know, they did everything that they could. And really, I think, again, the whole point is to recognize the work that you're doing. I think that's one of the biggest reasons, is to recognize the work. So for me, in my whole familial line, in my maternal familial line, there are a lot of women that self-sacrificed their identity, and they self-sacrificed when they didn't have to for men that did not appreciate them. And that is a generational curse that has been happening when I started doing research and I started going up the ancestral line. And then when I told the ex that I had that I wanted to move forward, that we needed to get divorced, that was me breaking a generational curse. I didn't really see it that way. I was just like, yeah, this sucks because everybody in my family really liked us together and really wanted us to stay together, but nobody really knew what was happening behind closed doors and what I was dealing with, or what he was even dealing with on a day-to-day basis, us being together. And I just kind of dealt with that and struggled through it and moved past it. Did not realize until Spirit made me aware. Spirit said, you do realize you broke a generational curse by stepping away, by saying, I will not accept a relationship where myself and the other person are not unified in our goals. We're not unified in the way that we love and in the way that we do things. No, we don't have to be the same people. No, we don't have to want the exact same things. But there has to be, they gotta have what the kids say. They gotta have that dog in them. They gotta be aggressive about themselves, kind of, in a way. I don't know if that really makes sense, but like, not aggressive. That's the wrong word. That's not the word I want to use. The person that I am with What am I trying to say? Spirit, guide me. Your girl is tired. It's almost midnight and I still haven't eaten yet. The person that you want in your space, you do not need to be questioning if that person wants to be with you. You should never feel like you are an option in a relationship that matters to you. If you're a person who enjoys hookup culture, or you're a person who enjoys casual dating, this is not what I'm talking about, because you and the other person understand that it's casual. But if you are wanting a deep connection in a relationship, we are not supposed to be settling for people who don't care whether or not the connection is deep or not. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. And by supposed to, I just mean what your spirit came back here to do, you know? So it's interesting because some of the work that I was doing spiritually, I have kind of gotten to this point where, I see a future for myself. It's a bit different. Just let it be out. Just let it be out, bruh. I see a future for myself that's a little different than I saw before. Like, on one side, I see getting remarried. I see being in a relationship with a man who I am into. 41 minutes and 14 seconds did I say this, but a man that I'm very into, a partner that I'm very into, and who's very into me. And I can see us having children, and I can see us having our own space, and I can see us both having like our own type of businesses, or if he doesn't have a business, I have a business, and we support each other and our goals and our aspirations, and in the healthy development of our children, and just loving them. But then I also see a future where I don't need another person. I see a future where I adopt, most likely, a cat, even though I'm highly allergic. I don't give a fuck about being allergic. I've actually had cats in my life, and I've loved them. But that was when I was a kid, and I was growing up, and when my parents found out I was allergic, they said, nope, cats can't stay, so they had to go up for adoption. But I can see adopting a cat, and I can see adopting a dog, and living in a space where it's just me focusing on the things that give me dopamine, that give me that high, and that make me feel fulfilled. When I say give me dopamine, I'm not talking about like drugs or anything like that. I'm really talking about like, one of the things I've always wanted to do is I've wanted to go and learn how to do glass blowing. I've always wanted to do that. There's a show, it's like a glass blowing competition. I love that show. Growing up, that was white people shit. That's what I was told, that glass blowing was white people shit. And so I never really talked about it. And now when I talk about the interest that I have, people are like, that's crazy. You're into that? That's wild. I'm like, yeah, I've always been into it. It's just I didn't say anything because y'all weren't safe people. But I've always wanted to go glass blowing. I've always wanted to do like a drink and paint, like sip and paint. I've always wanted to do that. A pilgrimage. I would love to do a walking pilgrimage like across Europe. And there are, she's so funny. There are like cathedrals in Europe, and they like, some of them will give you like a map, and you go on foot, you and like a group of people, and you guys literally just on foot are walking from location to location, and you have your backpacks. They have like checkpoints essentially where you go that are safe havens where you sleep while you're on this pilgrimage, and the whole point is to be connected with nature and to be connected with spirit and the divine and to be connected with self. I've always wanted to do that shit. 43 minutes and 43 seconds, I say that type of stuff gives me dopamine. And I've never really put time, energy, finances into it. When I had the finances, I was focused on paying bills. I was focused on drinking. I was focused on, going out there and hooking up with people and having a good time. And it wasn't really a lot of people. It was like, I would hook up with people, but it would be like a consistent hooking up. Like, it would be hooking up with like one person. But because, me and that person at the time were like, we don't want to call this a relationship, we're just vibing, that's kind of what it was. But I never really took the time to just really lock into what it was that made my heart happy. And a lot of it is because I spent like 90% of my life up until this point wanting a partner to kind of pluck me out of the struggling place that I've been in, vulnerability moment. I discovered that the big reasons why I wanted a partner is because as a child, there were 3 or 4 things that I did not get as I was growing up, as I was developing. And when I was growing up, the way media, the way that my family, the way that neighbors, the way that people at school talked about a relationship, for me, a man was going to save me. A man had all of the things that I was missing, and he could give me those things. And so for a good chunk of my life, I have centralized finding a man. And it's because I believed that finding a man would save me from the things that I didn't have and the things that I wanted, and that he would kind of fill that space of lack that I was experiencing. And I didn't realize that until, get this, spiritual journey started, like dedicated spiritual journey started October of last year. I didn't understand this until 4 days ago. I wanted a soulmate this whole time, and I didn't understand why I was wanting a man so badly in my life until 4 days ago. And the reason I make that like that's a big deal to me is because I've been wanting a partner for so long, and it's like 45 minutes and 54 seconds as I say this. That's interesting. I've been seeing a lot of those numbers. So the same number will be on the outside, and then the same two different numbers that are the same number will be on the inside. That's been happening a lot. I've been seeing 1221 a lot recently. I have something to share with you. So when it comes to that, let me make a mental note. Synchronicities. What you learned about synchronicities. Okay. So, I realized that only 4 days ago, when for the majority of my life, I've wanted a partner. So, you want something for so long and you don't know the first thing about it. It's honestly like wanting a car and not knowing how to drive. It's like, you kind of need to know how to drive before you get your dream car, because you're going to get out there and immediately get into a car accident because you don't know how to drive, you haven't practiced. You haven't tried to learn anything. You've just kind of been wanting this thing and doing no prep to have it. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm calling myself out, stepping on my own toes. And I realized that about 4 days ago. And when I realized that, the yearning for a partner completely went away. And it was weird how it went away. Like, it was as if I was turned off by the idea for a little bit. Like, when the day ended and I woke up the next morning, I was like, damn, well, where am I going to get my dopamine fix now? Because for my entire life, the dopamine hit has been fantasizing about having this beautiful soulmate connection. And now that I'm realizing where it was coming from, that it was coming not from a place of just because I want it. It was coming from trauma. I took a step back and I was like, I don't really know what to do with that. And that's when it started to develop the desire to kind of do something different. So to get pets, to spend more time with my nieces that I have, to, talk more to my family, and then to kind of create like a calm place in here. Something that I realized as I was going through, because I think I said this earlier in the video, but I go on Pinterest and I find shadow work prompts. If you're wanting to know, if you're like, I want to do self-therapy because I can't afford to go into therapy and I'm pretty good at calling myself out on my bullshit. Self-therapy is not a replacement for going to therapy, but I do think that we have a tendency to dismiss our own intuition and our own ability to work through things in favor of things we have to pay for, because since we don't have to pay for it, we don't value it as much. So somebody who has a degree, we say, oh, well, because they have a degree or they have a certification, they're better. But think about it this way. There are many women who have gone to hospitals for 10 plus years for issues that they know that they're having, and intuition has told them it is this thing, and doctors have repeatedly told them, no, you're fine, no, you're fine, no, you're fine. And then they finally go to the doctor that 100th time, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, we found out what it is. It was this thing. You were right. It was in your abdomen. And women be looking at doctors like, that's what I said it was. You could have checked it when I said. And so we don't often trust our intuition. Even men. Even people who are, people who don't identify as any of the binaries. A lot of people do have intuition. They just don't trust it. And we're led not to trust it because we're told that people with degrees and people with certifications essentially know us better than we know ourselves, which is crazy that you would create a society that does not know themselves. Makes them easier to control. But I don't know why I got off on that, but yeah, so coming to that realization and then kind of creating this new fantasy in my mind where I have the little log cabin that I want, you know, that I've always kind of dreamed of. My little log cabin, my animal companions, being able to cook the food that I want, and being able to just live a life where I am just at peace and at home in myself, and creating that space. So I've really been spending a lot of time outside of streaming video games, doing this thing that I'm passionate about, this passion project. I've been spending a lot of time outside of that, creating a comfortable place in me so that no matter where I am, I feel at home. And that's new, and I like it, and I'm enjoying it, and it's pretty great. Now, to go back to the synchronicities thing, I saw a video on TikTok, and I wish I could just pull it out of my head and just slap it on the screen so that y'all can see it. But in this TikTok, this lady said, we think about synchronicities in a very, what are we supposed to do way? And that means that if we see 222, it is a sign that something is coming. What do we need to do to get to that something? Yeah? However, what she was saying is that if you flip it and you look at synchronicities, 333, 444, your dream car is driving by 6 and 7 times a day, you're getting calls from people who you thought about, who you haven't thought about in years, who haven't reached out to you, and suddenly they're reaching out to you. Synchronicities, all of those things, instead of thinking about them from the perspective of what you need to do, think about them from the perspective of what did you just do? Ooh, I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. I think I could probably talk about this for hours upon hours and hours. There we go. I think I could think about it for hours and hours and hours. Because essentially, what she was saying is every number is, what it's doing is the world is responding to your internal thoughts, feelings, changes. So if you are seeing a lot of a certain number and you look up what that number represents, it's not necessarily that you need to do things. Think about what you were thinking when you saw this number, or what were you doing when you saw this number, or what were you thinking, or what were you doing right before that. It's incredible, because what it does is it puts the power squarely in your hands of, I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I am doing it. I am creating the change that I'm wanting to see. 52 minutes and 25 seconds as I say that. So I'm doing the thing that is creating the change. So the numbers that you're seeing, they're not sent from the universe to tell you that things are coming necessarily. They're sent from the universe as a feedback to let you know that you're exactly where you need to be. So for me, the other day, when I came to the realization that I wanted to decentralize having a partner, I wanted to decentralize the idea of being in a romantic relationship. I was like, I believe on a deep internal soul level that relationship is there for me. But I also believe that I can live a very fulfilled, happy, excited life without another romantic partner in my life. When I had that realization, I looked at the clock and it was 11:23. And I was so giddy because I was like, what did I just do? And it's like, well, you just changed your mental paradigm. You changed what your goal in life was. You changed what it was that you were thinking about, and you decided to do something else. I saw so many numbers bouncing back at me the week that I was doing all that work concerning my parents and my family. And I kept seeing those numbers, kept seeing them. And then randomly, a car show was happening, and my sister was like, I had seen a picture of it a long time ago and took a picture of the billboard, completely forgot about it. It cropped up in my mind, and we actually were able to go and hang out at this car show, and I saw all of these beautiful motorcycles. Because for those of you that don't know, I want to go and get my motorcycle license so that I can leisurely ride. I'm not trying to speed down the highway. I'm not trying to be doing out here, doing anything crazy out here. But what I really want to do is be able to ride like back roads and stuff, especially during the winter and the fall. Oh my gosh. Spring, maybe. Not necessarily during the summer. I don't see myself as being a person who wants to ride a lot during the summer, but I do want to ride during the fall in particular because, back roads in like the country or in the mountains, beautiful. And I'm a cruiser, man. I'm a cruiser. I'm the type of person who will ride at 60, 65 if it is safe to do so, and that's me. I'm not trying to be doing no esports. That's not me. I'm not Shaun White. I am not Rob Dyrdek out here. I'm not on all of that ridiculousness. That was the name of the show. But anyways, so with the synchronicities, I was like, that's crazy, because it really does feel like a more powerful situation to be in. But I think those are all the things that I've been up to. Again, anybody who is following me now and you weren't following me before when I was posting stuff, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. If you specifically were watching this video, I'm glad that you watched this video. I'm glad that you were seeing this video because you needed to see it. I think that's why I was posting all those videos. It's not necessarily for the subscribers. It wasn't for the viewers. And I got really excited about the subscriber count, but over like the past week, I've been reminded how that's not the part that matters. Because if there are 2 people who watch my content who are helped or benefited in some way, or come to a realization, or their curiosity is tickled, so then they go looking for stuff, I have done exactly what I was supposed to do. That was the point. The point of these videos is not for me to be understood. The point of these videos is not for me. Ooh, so this is for you as well. The point is not for you to be understood or misunderstood. It's for you to be felt. It's for you to be experienced. That's the point. Wanting to be understood is not a bad thing. But when you spend your whole life seeking for people to understand you, you place your happiness and joy on those other people. So they have that power. But I think a lot of us seek to be understood because we don't really even understand ourselves. So, 56 minutes and 56 seconds as I say that, I would implore you to get to know yourself. What type of dates do you want to go on? If you can, take yourself on those dates. And again, you're talking to a person who only has $50 or so in her account right now. And that money, even to some people, and I'm grateful that I have that. I'm grateful that I have that because that has allowed me to keep up with my medications, because I have some medications that are off-brand that I'm luckily able to afford because I have that. I'm in a situation where I have access to internet, so even though I don't have phone service, I can, when I'm on the Wi-Fi, I can still talk to people. I've been using WhatsApp for years. If you don't know what WhatsApp is, get on it, bro, because WhatsApp is amazing. You can use it to talk to people in different countries. That's primarily why my family used it, because I have a lot of family members in Europe and in the West Indies, in the islands. And so that's primarily why we used it. But it's my family's like primary form of communication is on WhatsApp. Like we don't even really use SMS and texting and stuff like that on our regular phones. So when I texted my family, I was like, hey guys, my phone service has been suspended. And they were like, oh, okay, because we don't really use phone service like that. Like, we mostly use WhatsApp. Now, you can only really use it for real when you're on Wi-Fi, or if you have, like, mobile data that you're using. So for me, because I don't have those things everywhere, I can really only text when I'm on the Wi-Fi. But, yeah, so just letting you know, for anybody who is also struggling to afford phone services or do not have phone services, but you do have a phone, I would say WhatsApp is a really great alternative. To that. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys, and I'm so excited to go out here and finally eat some food. I had a little bowl of Cheerios right before I did my stream, and I think that tied me over. But now I think it's time to feed my gut. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And by here, I don't mean like just here with me. I mean, thank you for being here on planet Earth. I know some of you were like, I didn't choose this shit. If I could have chosen, I would have stayed up in the ether, bruh. But there's a reason that you came here. I believe spiritually, even if people were here and then they weren't here very long, they came here to experience something. So I am grateful to you for being here. And whether you follow me, whether you subscribe, whether you like, whether you comment or anything, you never have to do that stuff. I appreciate it and I like it. I like engaging with people. At the same time, do not feel pressured, my love. Do not feel pressured at all. But anyways, I love you guys so much. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you're at. I don't know when next I'm going to see you guys. I've been contemplating doing a tarot card reading for a while now, but then right before I'll do it, I'll feel, no. And a couple of times it's been because it's been for me. Your girl had a 10 card pull the other day, and Spirit literally hit me with the, yeah, so you didn't even realize what you were doing. Ooh, that's what happened. For those of you who are, you have your own tarot cards, and for those of you who want to know, you can actually look it up on Google. You can make your own. You can make your own. The whole point of them is to help you discover things about yourself. But what I did is I asked Spirit, I sat and I meditated and I said, why am I here? What am I doing? What is my purpose? Why am I still in this apartment? I love my parents, but I'm trying to get the fuck out of here, bro. What is happening? And one of the members, one of these spiritual mentors that I have, was like, I'm going to tell you a story. So draw these cards and I want you to see if you notice a through line. I drew 10 cards and that number is very significant to me. And when I looked, it was the story of my life. Every card was about the sections of my life since I started being spiritual. And I saw it in a macro way. And I was like, oh, I haven't been in this apartment as long as I thought I was. An hour, 1 minute, and I think it was 10 seconds or 11 seconds that I saw. 1010111. And I was like, oh. And Spirit was like, yeah, you're thinking that you're wasting time. You're feeling that you're here super long because you're seeing people on social media moving really fast. And you're feeling like the rest of your life happened really fast. It didn't. Everything was happening exactly the way it needed to. But you've forgotten. I was reminded. And so I got really grateful for where I'm at because I was like, wow, compared to the rest of the phases that I've gone through in my life, I have not been here that long. So it's like, your girl has a problem with patience. And Spirit was like, yeah, you do. Fix that shit. Because patience, best friend. That's going to be your best friend for the rest of your life. Patience is a virtue, and it is going to be a skill, and it is going to be amazing for you doing anything for the rest of your life. Patience is not just about Spirit. Patience is about not just waiting, but waiting well. It's the ability to stand in line and not be irritated and bitchy at everybody. It's the ability to wait for, if you're pregnant, you wait for your baby to come. You're waiting for your baby to come out. For those of you who are waiting for your partner to propose and y'all just got together, patience is a virtue. And then you got to trust your spirit to know when it's time to act, versus just sitting and being patient. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys this evening. So I am going to post this. I am very, very excited to post this. Again, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all comments. I do. I appreciate y'all's comments. Even comments that aren't the most positive. And I've had a couple of them. The comments where people talk about the way I look, or people challenge kind of things that I say. An hour, 3 minutes, and 3 seconds as I say that. An hour, 3 minutes, and 3 seconds as I say that. But I like it. I appreciate it. I mean, if you take the time to comment on anything that I'm saying or doing, it had some effect on you. So for those of you who be watching my videos and you're like, bro, you suck, I appreciate you commenting that I suck, because you were moved. Whatever I said unnerves you so much that you felt like you had to leave a comment. For those of you who post stuff online, that's how I be thinking. I'm like, anybody who has rude shit to say, or anybody who has some crazy stuff to say, or they coming at my life, I'm like, you know what? That's cool. I don't accept that energy. Return that to sender. But what I can say is I think it's cool that it had an effect on you, because you wouldn't have said anything if it didn't. So anyways, I've said this like 3 or 4 times. I love you guys. I hope you have just an amazing, amazing time in life. And again, if you guys have anything that you want to celebrate or that you want to talk about, or things that you're struggling with and you just want to be able to post it somewhere, the odds of your family seeing my videos are slim, depending upon who you are, because I don't post on YouTube a lot of stuff that would bring my things to your people. So if you want to talk about what's ailing you, what you're struggling with, you can put that in the comments. But you guys have an amazing, amazing time, whatever that time is, and I will definitely holler at you at a later date. All right, I love you guys. Mwah. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.